Before we get into today's episode, I did just want to come on here and apologize for the episode length. Covering the entire American League in one episode, we did not think it would take us this long, but it did, 2 hours, as you can see by the length of the video. So I just want to apologize for that. But it is a really good episode, lots of good discussion. I did add the timestamps down below for each division and each team. That way you can kind of jump in and out if you want. If you want to hear us talk about a certain team, you can easily get to that. You don't have to kind of try and search throughout the 2 hour episode to try and find it. So that'll be down below, and you'll also find that next to the Spotify link. If you want to just listen to it, I'm sure that'll be a little easier to get through than watching the whole video, obviously. So I'll leave that down below there for you guys as well. It is a really good episode. I recommend you guys stick through it all. Lots of good discussion. And of course, always let us know what you think down below, whether you agree or disagree. Have a great rest of your day and enjoy the episode. Episode 22 of the Loose and Groovy Baseball Show. An episode I'm very excited for as we are finally getting into our season previews and we're doing the entire American League today. Going to be kind of planning out how we think it's going to go across all the divisions, into the playoffs, and as well as award winners. So should be a pretty jam-packed episode today. As you can see, we're back at school with our backgrounds. It was a nice week off, but we're happy to be back. Episodes obviously won't be as frequent as they were a week ago, but we'll still be trying to get out once a week, especially with the MLB season starting up this week. That's very exciting. So yeah, we'll do our best to kind of just keep up with that and give you guys some more loose and groovy content. So Parker, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. I will say these predictions definitely took a lot more research than the last positional rankings. So it was really fun to kind of dive into each of the different like aspects of the team, whether it was like rotation, bullpen, or offense. So super excited.
Yes, 100%. I also do want to say our YouTube page in general has actually been doing pretty good. And we have a lot of new subscribers and just growth. So if you are new here, welcome. And yeah, we hope you kind of enjoyed today's episode as kind of a preview of what we're all about. And we hope you stick around for a while, especially heading into the MLB season. But just wanted to say welcome if you are new here. So yeah, let's just get right into it. We're going to kick it off with the AL East, and pretty much how this is going to go is we're gonna go through the order last year, based on where they finished. So like for the AL East, we'll start with the Yankees and then we'll go to Baltimore. And we're kind of just gonna talk about the team in general, where they are at heading into 2025. And then me and Parker will give our predictions of where they're gonna finish in the division this year. And we'll kind of just go from there. So kicking us off right away, we're gonna go to the Yankees. They finished first last year in the division at 94 wins. So yeah, heading into 2025, the Yankees do look pretty different, I would say. They lost Juan Soto, Gleyber Torres, and Clay Holmes. However, they did add Devin Williams, Cody Bellinger, and Paul Goldschmidt. Injuries are definitely killing them right now, though. I would say throughout the start of spring training and this season, injuries have definitely plagued the Yankees the most out of maybe any other team. But Garrett Cole, Tommy John surgery, that was announced about a week ago. Luis Gil, the AL Rookie of the Year. I think it's a lat strain specifically, something with his lat. The estimated return looks like June, so he'll be out at the start of the season. And we still don't really know much about Giancarlo Stanton. At least I haven't read anything recently, but he's got a lot of pain in both of his elbows, is what I read, kind of like a tennis elbow situation. Don't know what that looks like yet, but that would suck if he is not around for most of the season. But again, we don't really know what that looks like. So, yeah, looking at the lineup, I guess I can kind of start going into my what I think the Yankees are going to look like in 2025. So for me, I have the Yankees finishing third in the AL East at 87 wins. Um, I do think there's a scenario where the Yankees, like the stars align for the Yankees, and you could say that I think for any of the three top teams in the AL East. Um, my concern is like obviously losing Juan Soto is probably the biggest thing here. Like that, I mean, everybody knows that he's a difference maker on the field in terms of the bat. Obviously, not as much of the defense, but he is an incredible player, and it is hard to replace that kind of guy. And they made an attempt to with Bellinger and Goldschmidt, but I don't know. I just see a lot of question marks with this team. Obviously, Aaron Judge is still amazing, and I know we've talked about this. I think I brought it up, but I think Aaron Judge is like amidst all the Juan Soto talk, Aaron Judge is definitely becoming, I guess you could say, underrated because just looking at his past 3 seasons, he's been incredible. And the impact he has on this team is really, really, really strong. He's going to switch to right. Cody will play in center, and then it's Jason Dominguez playing in left. We'll see how that goes. He's been bounced up and down a lot, and hopefully this is his time to get a good full season under his belt. But like Anthony Volpe still hasn't been great. Is Austin Wells going to replicate? You don't know much about Jazz either. I mean, he's solid, but and maybe playing at second for the full season without him switching around will help him out. Right now with standout, they have Ben Rice as the DH and then Oswaldo Cabrera playing at third. And then looking at the bench too, it's Oswald Peraza, Trenton Grissom, and then Dominic Smith and Alex Jackson are the other two guys, but they are non-roster invites, so we don't know if that's where they're going to end up. Um, I think the offense worries me more than the other two teams I have above them. And again, I think there's a world where you see Volpe take a jump, you see Wells continue to improve, you see Bellinger have a pretty maybe a better season than he did last year. Goldschmidt, I don't really know. I mean, he might be fine, especially playing in Yankee Stadium. He might have a decent season, but I'm not like super high on him. I
Mhm.
just I there's other offenses I like a lot more than the Yankees, and I think going into that the rotation is solid even without Cole. Rodon was named the opening day starter, so it's Rodon, then Fried, Stroman as the three, Clark Schmidt as the four, and Will Warren as the five. Will Warren saw a little bit of time last year uh, in the MLB, but he's been making heads turn his way during spring training. I know a lot of Yankees fans are pretty excited to watch him play, so he's the projected five. And the bullpen is still really solid. They lost Tommy Kahnle to Detroit, but Luke Weaver as your setup man in the eighth and Devin Williams in the ninth is pretty really. I mean, it's just solid. I really like them bringing Tim Hill back. He was great when he got traded there mid-season, or I think they signed him actually. Mark Leiter Jr., Ian Hamilton. There's still a lot of good pieces here, and I think they'll still be a really solid team. I just the fall off from the top of this lineup to the bottom, I think, is kind of what scares me the most. So I think third, yeah, well, third is where I have them, and then finishing with 87 wins.
Okay, that's interesting. So 87 wins, Travis's prediction. So I actually had them winning 90 games and finishing first place in the division.
Mm.
And the reason why I know this division is very, very solid, but the reason why I'm putting their number one team at 90 wins is because, and this kind of happens every year, but I think this division is just so good that they're all just gonna kind of beat up on each other. So it's kind of hard to have that one like powerhouse winning 100 games in this type of division. So first of all, getting into the lineup, I agree with you. There is definitely some question marks, and of the three top teams between them, and then I'll get into that later. The Orioles, the Red Sox, whatever order I have them in, but um, their lineup is definitely the worst, but not like I don't see it as a sizable margin where there are other aspects of their game, like their bullpen and rotation, can't like pick up that slack. Like you were saying, losing the best hitter hurts immensely. Um, or I guess the second best hitter, but now they still have the best hitter. So having Aaron Judge in your team, having a guy that's probably going to hit at least like 45 to 55 home runs, if he stays healthy and just like the production that he has. Um, and then I do think Paul Goldschmidt is going to be a good hitter. Will he return to anything like he was his MVP season? Probably not. Um, but like Jazz Chisholm, Volpe is going to take a step up. And then like Wells, I know you said like you're worried that like you're not sure if he'll have the same production as last year. Um, but again, like kind of assuming a regression is coming, I think it's more sure that he's going to take a step forward than take a step backwards. So I kind of thought it the opposite way in my mind. Um, I don't like the bottom of their lineup. Dominguez, yes, he has tremendous upside, but he's still a rookie, and we know how that can be sometimes with these like Jackson Halliday, these top prospects that have high expectations. But then like Ben Rice and Cabrera, I'm not a huge fan of that. And kind of like you pointed to, their bench, not good depth at all. So for each of my sort of um like between bullpen rotation and lineup, I gave like a little mini ranking out of 10 for each of the teams. So for the Yankees, I said 7 out of 10 lineup. Um like okay, above average, like pretty good. Um but definitely could use some work. and then kind of getting into the rotation. I think all three of these teams could use a lot in their rotation. Um, if the Yankees had Garrett Cole, I think that this would 100% be the Yankees division, like without a doubt. But losing him hurts a lot, but I still think they have the best rotation of those three top teams. Um, like Rodon, Fried, Stroman. I think that's a decent three. I know Rodon last year he had like a 3.98. He won a decent amount of games for them. Stroman, I was talking to you about this, but like he's a good like 4 or 5 starter. I don't know if you really want him as like a three.
Yeah.
And then Clark Schmidt when he's out there, he's good. Will Warren, I'm not sure what you're gonna get out of him, but like you said, they are excited about him. But I do look at this rotation as being stronger than the other two, especially the Orioles. That was like the big thing that separated them from the Orioles. And then lastly, getting into the bullpen, rotation I rated 6 out of 10, and then bullpen. I love this bullpen. Do you think you can tell me a better eighth and nine inning duo between Luke Weaver and Devin Williams?
In this
I mean,
division,
like there might be. I'm just trying to think.
I think Yiner Cano and Felix Bautista with the Orioles could be better.
Yeah,
I think Felix, when Felix is healthy, is probably one of the best closers in the MLB.
I would agree.
Um, I mean, we were just talking about Oakland. I mean, like Claire and Mason Miller could be up there. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, Devin Williams definitely, I think, carries this tandem here because he is also one of the best. You could go to Cleveland with Cade Smith and Clase. I think that is
Hader and
arguable.
Hader
I
and
think,
Abreu, Astros.
yep, Abreu Hader. I think Minnesota, Griffin, is it? Yeah, Griffin Jacks and Duran is another really good one. But it's comparable. It's up there with those
Yeah.
ones, I would think.
Yeah, so I rated that 7 out of 10. Compared to the other two teams, I can kind of get into those more later on, but I do think the Orioles bullpen is better, and I'll get into that kind of like you were pointing to with those two guys. But just overall, no like super strong suit. I rated the Yankees bullpen 7 out of 10. There's not like a clear cut like this puts the Yankees like way above everybody else, but like the areas where the other two teams lack. I think the Yankees kind of make up a lot more compared to like their lineup deficiencies that I talked about. So yeah, Yankees first place with 90 wins. And do you want me to get to my number two? Kind of do the snake again?
Yeah, well, we'll bounce the Orioles next. But you can get a start on the Orioles and all your thoughts on there, and then I'll go after you.
Yeah. So the Orioles, this is such an interesting team to me, especially to rank. I'm gonna be honest, I gave their lineup and their bullpen a 9 out of 10. So lineup, I think it's one of the best in baseball, top five to top three, maybe even the best. Last year, I know they had a ton of production, especially in the American League. They're up there for the best. Between like Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, I think he's going to take a step forward and return to the Adley that we know. I don't think last year um, kind of showed like what a true player he was. I think you got to look at the 2 years before that. I do like their pickup of Tyler O'Neill, although I would have liked them to replace their two big losses more between Santander and Corbin Burns, especially Corbin Burns. I'll get into that later, but I don't know. I love what they do. I love their like platoon matchups. If there's a righty on the mound, they're gonna throw Ryan O'Hearn at you with a lefty, Ryan Mountcastle, um, and just there's so many areas of this lineup that pitchers should be scared to face. Like even their like bottom of their lineup guys and like their middle lineup guys between like Jordan Westburg, Colton Cowser is going to get better. I'm super excited about that. And they have some of the best depth. Picking up Ramon Laureano, I think it was 3 or 4 million for 1 year. He was amazing last year.
Mhm.
Great defensive replacement too later on in the innings. Heston Kjerstad, I think he's going to be very good too. And then just picking up Gary Sanchez as the backup. I know you wanted Higashioka. It was it.
I still think that would have been a good signing
It,
because,
it would have, yes. And
yeah,
Higashioka had a better year than I thought last year when I looked at his stats. But
yeah.
um, so I love that. And then I guess I'll just say their bullpen real quick. 9 out of 10, like you said. Bautista and Cano is a amazing duo for that eighth and ninth inning. I don't there's no doubt in my mind that even coming off the injury, Bautista is going to be nasty. And then like picking up Sir Anthony Dominguez, I believe they traded him. They got him through trade with the Phillies.
Yeah, that was
Um,
the Austin Hayes deal.
okay. And then Keegan Aiken, just you got lefties there, Gregory Soto and Keegan Aiken. Brian Baker's good. And then as kind of a rotation depth piece, I guess Albert Suarez could go from either like the sixth man or if somebody gets injured, he could fill in. Um, Honestly, I would have rather have him in the rotation than some of these guys. I'm just looking at the rotation, and this is why I put him at second. The rotation I rated 2 out of 10. I hate this rotation so much. It is so bad. And I don't know how if you're gonna be able to convince me otherwise. Zach Eflin, I think he's at best a two starter, maybe three. And then after that, like Charlie Morton, who's how old is he? He's over 41 years old. Dean Kramer, nothing like he'll put mid fours ERA. Sugano, I mean, his Fangraphs projection is a 4.66 ERA. Like what are you expecting from a 35-year-old coming overseas? Like I don't know what you can expect from that. And then Cade Povich is your five. Like it's so bad. Like every day they're gonna be put at a massive disadvantage. Unless they have Eflin on the mound, but if Eflin's facing like a good one or two starter, then you're still at a disadvantage. So the rotation scares me so much, and I think it's one of the biggest failures of the offseason is not having any type of replacement for Corbin Burns in this rotation. So I have them finishing second thanks to their amazing lineup and their amazing bullpen with 87 wins.
Yeah, so you'll find out pretty quickly the Orioles are a team I'm probably the highest on in the entire American League. So I have them finishing it with 97 wins, 97 and 65. Um, so I will go back to 2022. The Orioles won 101 games this season. Their rotation was led by Kyle Bradish at a 2.83, Tyler Wells at a 3.64, and Dean Kremer at a 4.12. Those were the three best starter ERAs from that year. They had Bautista and Yennier Cano on that team. I would argue the offense is better than it was in 2022. Or I guess this probably was the 2023 season that they did this. I don't think it's 2022. So I guess my belief is I don't see a reason why that can't happen again. Um, I would speak to everything you said about the offense. Gunnar and Adley, like, I mean, I could say that I could say this for anybody. There's so many good bats on this team. There's also a
Mhm.
lot of good platoon bats, like Cedric O'Hearn on your lefties, and then you have Gary Loriano on your righties is really, really nice. Gary can maybe spot start a few games at catcher, but he can also DH for you, which I think is pretty good, especially if you just have him playing against righties, which he crushes. Um, I know it always goes back to like the Adley thing, and I know I probably disrespected him when I made the backup catcher take or whatever. But I do think Adley I don't see a world where he's worse than he was last year, and I think he's gonna get back to just a really, really good catcher and one of the best in the league. So and we know he had a pretty like on his standard, just pretty mid-season last year. So the offense obviously, and you agree with me, no questions there. Bullpen, also no questions. Getting Bautista back, I think is a pretty underrated like I mean, I don't want to say like addition because he's with the team, but like having him back after missing him without a full season, I mean, it's pretty impactful, especially like I think a lot of people forget the Orioles won 91 games last year. Like I know they had a pretty slow offseason and they didn't do much, but this was still a 90-win team last year. And I think Felix Bautista being your closer, I think that could make or break a couple of games here. And there is a universe where if Bautista didn't get Tommy John, the Orioles could have won the division last year, and we might be looking at it from a little bit of a different lens. So
Yeah.
and again, that's my argument also with them finishing above the Red Sox. Like the Orioles were a 10-game better team than the Red Sox last year. The Red Sox made a lot more moves in the offseason, but I don't think the Orioles needed to. Do I still think they should have gotten rotation help? Absolutely. But I would also still say that like the team itself was better than the Red Sox at the end of last season. Still, though, they probably fell a bit behind the Red Sox in terms of offseason acquisitions. Uh,
Real quick. So you said, and I agree with you, Felix Bautista could have got them some more wins. to potentially push them over that hump. But that is factoring in having like a top five pitcher in Corbin Burns on your team. Like losing him is
Yeah. So
I
yeah,
don't
it's
know.
like the
I don't think it can go
scale.
understated.
So I'll talk about the rotation.
Yeah.
So Eflin, I agree with you, should not be the one. I think he'll still be good, but like, yeah, I agree. He probably should be two at best, maybe like a three or a four. Dean Kremer's been with the team for a while. I don't mind him. Cade Povich, I guess we'll see. He's been in the farm system for a while now. He's put up okay numbers down there. I mean, I don't expect him to be anything better than like a 3.5 probably, and not too many innings either this year. And again, a 3.5 is like the hopeful side of that. Sagano, again, I think you're right on him. I don't know what he looks like. I guess that's why I brought up the 2022 thing because I think you could go back and look at that rotation and say, okay, is this rotation better than this year's? Maybe a little bit, but with that like subpar rotation in 2023, they still won 101 games. Like I just think the bullpen and offense is way too good for me to worry too much about this rotation. Most days you probably don't need these guys to go more than 5 innings, and then you can turn it over to a Keegan Aiken, you can turn it over to a Albert Suarez, even Seranthony Dominguez. Like I don't know. I just think the bullpen is really good to pick up this rotation, and I don't think they're gonna need to hold offenses to like two runs or 3 runs to win. I think the offense is gonna supplement them a lot. I also go to, who's on their injured list right now? Trevor Rogers. What did I say? I know he's not that good. He really isn't. Um, let's see. I didn't write anything about when he's going to be coming back. I'm not really sure. Grayson Rodriguez, he
Oh, that's
had,
massive.
yeah, so he went down in spring training, elbow inflammation. I just read that they're going to have to ramp him up again. So he will be on the injured list to start the season. I'm probably going to miss all of April, and then we'll see sometime between May and June he'll be back. But what does he look like? Hopefully he can be healthy and be the one here, but that is even probably wishful thinking as well. Tyler Wells had UCL surgery last, I guess that's June. Not sure what his timeline is. And then Cal Bradish had TJ last August, I think it was, or it looked like it was June as well. He might be back at the end of the season, which, they'll take anything at that point.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to add is I think the Orioles, I don't know. It's tough to say if they'll be buyers, but I think if the market is right, and a lot of teams are probably going to be looking at Basayo and Enrique Bradfield Jr., even Kobe Mayo could be on the trade market. There's pieces here for them to move to get, I would maybe say like Sandy Alcantara from Miami. They could even go after a Michael King or a Dylan Cease in San Diego. I would hope that they make a move to land a big arm at the deadline, assuming that the year is going well. And I think they have the pieces to do that as well. This team makes me excited, man. And I think top to bottom, they're one of the more well-rounded teams. I think you could leave out the rotation from me saying that because the rotation, I 100% agree. That's the one thing here where it's like that could really take this team down. But I don't know. I'm optimistic, and I'm mostly optimistic just because of what they did a few years ago with the rotation that they did have. So I do have the Orioles winning the AL East at 97 wins.
I yeah, honestly, I totally understand where you're coming from. I can see a world where their offense and bullpen is so good that it kind of bandages up any of the wounds that the starting rotation leaves them. Like you said, the starters might not even need they might not even need to go more than like 4 innings, like if they just put four out there, but it's just like how sustainable is that throughout the whole season? I will say if we didn't hear any of this news about Grayson Rodriguez, because I do think he'll be out longer than a month. I mean, elbow inflammation is anytime I see elbow or shoulder, it gets me very
Yeah,
scared.
100%.
If I did not see that, I likely would have had them in first place, if I'm being honest with you. Just getting a guy like that in your
Hmm.
rotation is huge, especially with how poor this rotation looks right now. So yeah, I can totally see it.
Yeah, it'll be I really hope I'm right because I think when Baltimore's good, it's better for baseball
Mhm.
as well. They're kind of one of those teams. So
Yeah.
we'll slide over to the Boston Red Sox. Finished 81 and 81 last year, completely 500. I would say, one of the more headline teams for this off season. Um, I have them finishing third, 89, or second, I'm sorry, second, 89 and 73. They lost Tyler O'Neill, Nick Pivetta, Kenley Jansen, but they did add Alex Bregman, Chapman, and Garrett Crochet. Willer Abreu is going to be on the IL to start the season. Shouldn't be a big deal. Brian Bayo had shoulder soreness as well. He'll probably start on the IL, but we'll see what he looks like. It looks like Yoshida will also be on the IL. He had shoulder surgery back in October, but he probably will start on the IL, but he'll be back pretty early, I would assume. Um, yeah, it's a pretty fun team now. They've made some good moves, and I really like what they've done, and they've filled the gaps that they did have, and now it's kind of hard to poke a hole in this offense. Um, you just get a lot of good production all over the field, and that's not even mentioning Marcelo Mayer, Christian Campbell, Roman Anthony. I'm sure everybody's heard those
Yeah.
names a lot, but there is a world where a few of those guys come up and we see what they do. I'm not going to bank on those guys bringing amazing production, right away, but that could happen. I guess so. My concern, and I don't even know if I would call this a concern for an 89 win team, but and I think you're going to agree with my sentiment on this, is this rotation is teetering on Garrett Crochet having a really good season, and they were a good rotation last year. They were solid. I think they were top 10 in the ERA. Um,
Mhm.
but I would also say it's wishful thinking to make the jump from Garrett Crochet from the season he had last year to being, a top three AL Cy Young candidate. I'm not saying he can't do that. And even on my pitcher rankings, I think I've had him like fourth or something. But I think it's so easy to just assume he's going to be awesome here, and he might be, but I feel like we're making that jump way too quickly, for my liking. And we've brought up the injury troubles in the past that could come into play. And then Walker Buehler, I know I'm probably more on the positive side of him than you are, but again, he's another guy where are we really just going to make the jump and assume, oh, it's Walker Buehler, like he's going to come back and he'll
Mhm.
find it again, first full season, like he'll be good. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the rotation is still really solid outside of those two guys. Like I said, they were really good last year, but I don't know. I just think it's a lot of hype on these two guys, these two kind of big names that they brought in, and I'm just not going to automatically assume that it'll be amazing. But there's a world there it could be. And in terms of pitching rotation depth, Boston has definitely got one of the best ones. Bayo, like I said, Cutter Crawford, Giolito's even coming back. They might get Sandoval towards the end of the season, so that looks solid. The bullpen. Chapman is good. I'm kind of like Liam Hendricks. He's back this year, and I mean, I think everybody's rooting for him at this point. But what does he look like after missing? I think it's maybe two full seasons, a little over a full season. But there's some other nice pieces in this bullpen that I mean, I think you would like to have for Boston. 24th in ERA last season, they added Chapman and Justin Wilson. So is that enough to kind of tip the scales to be like a middle of the road bullpen? I don't really know. It's hard to say. I still think Boston's going to be a good team this year. I don't see them winning this division really. So,
Yeah. I honestly, I have pretty much the same argument for everything, although I do have them third in my division with 85 wins. Their lineup, I do love it. There's not very many holes at all. I don't know in the American League, in the National League you can find some, but in the American League, I don't know where you can go to find a better 1 through 4 between Jarren Duran, Rafael Devers, Alex Bregman, and then Casas. And then like beyond that, even like Story, I mean, you don't know what you're gonna get out of him. He's been injured so much, but like Wilyer Abreu, um, Connor Wong was good last year. Ceddanne Rafaela, I think he's gonna take a step forward too. So I love this lineup. I think it's gonna be super exciting. I kind of put it in between the Orioles and the Yankees. I had an 8 out of 10, and then rotation. Yeah, I'm definitely a little lower. than you are, even though you weren't even really that high on this rotation. But I do think Garrett Crochet is gonna be amazing. But kind of like what you were pointing to, like this is you're ramping him up a little too fast, and like you're expecting a lot out of him pretty early. Um, like I'd be surprised if he pitched more than like 165, 170 innings.
Mhm.
Right now, Fangraphs likes him a lot, which I totally get because his like he strikes out everybody.
Mhm.
He's got a 2.99 and a 4.5 projected stats next year for that's WAR. And then Tanner Houck, I don't know if you're gonna get what you got last year or anything really close to it. Last year seemed kind of out of the blue compared to his previous years, but who knows, guys can figure stuff out. And then yeah, Walker Buehler, I don't know. I'd be so not surprised, but like I'm kind of expecting a 4 or higher ERA. And then Quinn Priester and Richard Fitz, like I don't know. I know those guys can be okay for your 4 and 5, but these injuries have hurt this lineup a lot or this rotation a lot. Like Giolito just got hurt with a strained hamstring. Cutter Crawford, who I would rather have him as a 4 or 5 than the guys I named. He had knee soreness last month, and then Brian Bayo, like I also would like him in those spots more, and he had shoulder soreness last month. So with those guys, it would definitely make a big difference, but those are long-term injuries, so I don't really see those guys coming back anytime soon to help, so that scares me a lot. So I had the rotation at 4 out of 10, and then also their bullpen at 4 out of 10. Kind of just echoing what you said. Hendricks and Chapman, I like those guys. I think Chapman's age is like fine wine. Like he's the as further along he gets in his career, like he's still gonna pump 105, which is insane, 104. Um, and then after that, the bullpen kind of falls off. Whitlock's pretty good. Justin Wilson, I like it as a left-handed reliever, but I don't know. I think on the pitching side of things, I don't think they'll be able to help the lineup enough to push them to first place or even second place in this division. Would I be surprised if it did happen? I would not be really surprised. Like I can see some of these rotation arms taking a step forward, but yeah, third place in the division, 85 wins, Red Sox.
I would also point out, well, two things. So the bench bats are not good like at all,
No.
especially when you line them up with Baltimore's. And I remember when you did the Red Sox trivia. I didn't know any of these guys, and maybe that's just me being a casual, but like Carlos Narvaez, Romy Gonzalez, Nick Sogard, and Rob Refsnyder, like I don't know what happens if one of your starters gets hurt.
Yeah.
Like if a Devers goes down, like okay, yeah, you slide Bregman over to third, and then what? Do you call up Christian Campbell to come play second? Like
Yeah.
this lineup gets very thin very fast with injuries, I think, or just lack of production, and that does concern me. And like a lot of people are saying, like the Bregman signing is huge, and like he's a perfect fit, and like I agree. And everybody pulls up like the 31 ABs he has in Fenway, and he's like one of the best hitters in Fenway of all time. I'm not really buying into that. Like we saw, like he played in Houston with the Crawford boxes, so it's like how is his production going to be any different than that? It's like
Yeah.
the same exact thing, maybe just less home runs because his little line drives won't clear the seating
Mhm.
of the green wall or whatever, the green monster. And like his what he had a 768 OPS last season. Like he's good and he's good
Yeah.
defensively, but he's not even going to be playing third. So like Bregman is a good addition, but for what they're paying him and what he is probably I think he's gonna underperform his expectations heading into the season.
Yeah. I would agree.
Do you want
So
to
now
get us started
get
on?
started. So now we are getting into who was it again? Sorry.
I think it's Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay. Okay. So I actually had the Tampa Bay's finishing last. I guess a little maybe disrespectful because the Rays are always gonna be a pest and like they're always a candidate to finish for like with like 84 wins or even more. But I think this is the Rays have been on a downfall, and I think this downfall continues. I have them winning 75 games. Their lineup, I don't like their lineup at all. I gave it a 4 out of 10. Some of the guys I do love, like Yandy Diaz, I like. But he is going in his age 34 season. Brandon Lau, he's always good, super underrated. Junior Caminero, I like him, and I think he's gonna be very, very good this year. Um, Not like all-star level good, but
Yeah.
like for a guy that's starting out, his exit velocities are like insane, and like he's always been um that super highly touted prospect that has high expectations. So I do think he's gonna be very good. Um, and then like after that, they're 5 through 9. I do not like it all. Danny Jansen, Jonathan Aranda, Christopher Morel, like yeah, he'll hit 25 home runs, but he's also gonna bat like 170 probably. Johnny DeLuca, Taylor Walls, like the fall off is crazy after their top four. And then their bench bats aren't terrible. Like I actually don't hate them. I would take them over the Red Sox that you just said, who have little bench depth. Jose Caballero, I like him a lot. His defense is good. He's going to steal a lot of bases, but his hitting's not the best. Ben Rortvedt, just like kind of a below average player, and I don't know, just not super excited about this bullpen. Sorry, this lineup
Hmm.
getting into their starting rotation. I love the starting rotation, and I think it's super underrated. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I I know Shane McClanahan has been out a long time, and he has not pitched very much recently at all. He's still, well, he's almost 30 or 28 years old, but he's 27 years old right now. Projected to have a 3.34 next year with 160 innings. I think he's gonna be so good. I think he's an ace on most teams. And then you go to like the rest of their lineup or the rest of their rotation. I don't know why I keep saying that. Taj Bradley, I like him a lot. We were talking about earlier in the podcast when we first started doing episodes. He went on some insane stretches. I can see him kind of finding more level between those highs and lows
Yeah.
that he went through last year. And then Ryan Pepio, he is so nasty. If you watch him, he is so good. Zach Littell, like I'll take that as a four starter any day. And then Shane Baz and Drew Rasmussen,
Five
like
six too.
yeah, they the Rays just kind of churn out these starting pitchers that are gonna be good, and they're not gonna pay them anything. And then as soon as they get good and they have to pay them, they'll trade them away, and then they'll get other guys that are just as good. So I have no doubts with their rotation. Their bullpen's kind of the same thing. I don't like this bullpen that much, but I don't compared to other teams, I don't get too scared about the Rays when I don't see the big names in their bullpen. I gave it a 4 out of 10, but I can definitely see it like being decent just based off of what they've done in the past. Fairbanks, again, kind of those highs and lows. It's like he'll blow like three saves in a row, and then he'll go on like a pretty good stretch where he's this dominant closer that we're used to seeing before. But is it Uceta?
Yeah.
Uceta? I think he's gonna be very good. I've been seeing a lot of stuff on him. He's kind of fallen under the radar in my mind. Um, and then I don't know, the rest of the bullpen's a little shaky to me. So I do have them having 75 wins and finishing last.
I'm not going to be the guy to push a Rays playoff appearance this season, but I'm not going to be surprised if it happens at all. And that's purely based off the rotation and the bullpen. Yeah, I would echo everything you said about the rotation. I'll push back a little bit on you for the bullpen. Um, Fairbanks, I agree, but he had 45 innings at 3.57. That's not awful.
Hmm.
Uceta was 41 innings at a 1.5.
Yeah.
Not going to replicate that. I doubt it, but it was a nice kind of surprise for them. They did. Garrett Clevenger is here as well, 60 innings, 3.75. Manuel Rodriguez, and a lot of these guys, like yes, they're names that even I don't really know, and I know you might not either, but like I think the Rays' ability to develop arms in their system is like I don't need to know the names really. I just kind of like assume they're
Yeah.
probably gonna be pretty
Exactly.
all right. And then they even brought in Alex Faedo from Detroit, which is a pretty good grab here. Maybe a spot start here or there if injuries pop up, or he'll be a long relief guy if somebody's just not having it that day. Um, Hyesung Kim is also a really good addition here. He'll probably start off on the injured list to start the season, but and the offensive production will probably not be his calling card, but the defense is going to be really good. Another thing that excites me is the like farm system the Rays have. I think everybody knows it's one of the best in the MLB. Carson Williams, I hope they find a spot for him this year. He's kind of been one of their top guys for I think a few seasons now. It is kind of tough with Brandon Lau at second and now probably Kim at short. We may not really see a lot of him this season just because of that reason. But if there's a situation where Lau gets traded at the deadline or something like that, maybe that opens up the door for Carson Williams to show up. Chandler Simpson's another guy. I hope they call up at some point. And I think they might because their outfield is just not very like it's Christopher Morel, Johnny DeLuca, and Josh Lowe. So I mean, like, is Johnny DeLuca gonna be the everyday guy? I hope not. And Chandler Simpson is just kind of like, I mean, do you know you've seen Chandler Simpson clips, right? You know who I'm talking
Yeah,
about? Okay.
fast.
So like he's just like that'd be so fun for the Rays to have a guy like that with that kind of speed up there to bat leadoff, and his hit tool is also really good. Um, so there's some exciting names here, and I think the offense is not great, and my biggest thing with the Rays is they're just lacking the star power the other teams have in this division, and you could just say, oh, it's just big names like that doesn't matter, but I think to an extent it does because in the big moments in the postseason, in like the games and the dog days of summer, like who you're relying on. I don't really know who I'm relying on here for the Rays. Is it
Yeah.
Yandy Diaz? Maybe. But like outside of that, I'm not going to count on any of these guys too heavily. I have them finishing fourth with 80 wins. Again, won't be surprised if they sneak into the playoffs. But again, I think the talent of the division and just some missing offensive pieces are really going to kill them this year. But that rotation and bullpen, they were both top 10 last year. I would not be surprised if that happens again. So,
Yeah.
anything else to add on them?
No, I think we got it all.
All right, so moving on to our last team in the East, we have the Blue Jays. They finished 74 and 88 last year. I have them 4 games better this year at 78 and 84. Um, I'm just not high on this team, even though they had a pretty active offseason, getting Santander, Scherzer, Jimenez, Jeff Hoffman. I just like looking at the offense like what's behind Vladdy? Like genuinely, what is? It's a bunch of old guys who aren't good anymore. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. And then you bring in Andres Jimenez, who's a great defender, but he's coming off progressively worse seasons offensively. And is Toronto going to be the place he fixes that? I don't know. George Springer also starting to regress. Their projections are not high on him for OPS in 2025, and he has 674 OPS last season, which I didn't even know it was that low. Alejandro Kirk, again, really heavy defensive minded. He had that one Silver Slugger season, but we haven't seen much else from him outside of that. And then Bo Bichette is kind of another big piece here where it was bad, like really bad last year. Is he going to
Mhm.
bounce back? It's hard to say. Like, I'm not going to be the one to say one way or the other. Santander is nice to have. Is he going to hit 40? I think it was 44 home runs last year. I'm not sure. There's way too many question marks with me and this team. I like and then I could probably get into the bullpen and the rotation a little bit more. Like Gosman, Barrios, Bassett, Scherzer, Francis. Could that be a pretty solid rotation? Sure, I'd give you that. And then going to the bullpen, Sandelin, Yimi Garcia, Jeff Hoffman as your back three. Sure, I like that a lot. But I don't know. There's way too many unknowns for me with this team, and I don't like unknowns when I'm projecting lineups for a season. So I think there is maybe a world they finish a few games above 80, and maybe they're active at the deadline as well. And we know they've been pushing to like kind of make this work with Vladdy and Bichette, but realistically, they're probably gone after this year. So is this kind of an all or nothing kind of year for them? Is there a scenario where things are going really bad and they move off of these guys at the deadline because they're probably not going to sign them back? I don't know. But there's just again way too many unknowns for me with this team heading into 2025. So that's why I have them finishing last.
You were saying, like, is there a scenario where if they do bad, do they move off these guys? There should be, but it doesn't seem like that's been in the cards for the front office for the Blue Jays for a while. Like last year, and this offseason, like they know what they have and they know it's not the best, and they're still like trying to throw more money at these older guys, like expecting an outcome, and I don't know if they're gonna get that outcome. Um, Same thing you said with the lineup. I just wrote one sentence. I just said they're just banking on too many bounce backs, like you said. Bo Bichette, is he going to bounce back? He might. He's had great years in the past, but looking at last year, like that's way too scary to have any solid projections of a season next year. George Springer, he's just getting old, like you said. You're expecting a bounce back out of him. Jimenez, he's had good years in the past, but last year, not very good. Kirk also looking at a bounce back. I guess he only had like one good hitting season, like you said, with that Silver Slugger. So maybe this is just who he is. It probably is.
Yeah.
Um, the only two like areas of this lineup where I can look and say I'm going to get production is Vladdy, who's going to be amazing, and Santander. I think he's still going to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you talked about him like when you're hitting what did he have 44 last year home runs?
Right.
When you're hitting 44 home runs and your OPS is still like at just a flat 800, that tells you that other areas of his game are lacking immensely. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's just I'm not too excited about them, and I've always been so low on them, and I apologize if you're a Blue Jays fan. I'm always trashing them. But I'm just trying to say it how I think it is. Their lineup I gave a 4 out of 10. The rotation I said 6 out of 10. I think it's fun, but it's also very very old. The average age of the rotation is just over 34 years old, and I think injuries could be a huge concern for that. I'm super excited for Max Scherzer. He's one of my favorite players ever. I think he's going to be good this year if he stays healthy, but that's the big if that we're talking about. Um, and then yeah, Gosman and Barrios, like I think they're going to be solid, but I don't know. It's just just a lot of worries. Bowden Francis is slated at their five. I like that a lot. I think he has great potential as kind of like he was never that high prospect, but I think he's kind of an exciting arm to watch this year. He had a no-hitter last year, right?
He had the two that were almost no hitters, but like he lost them in like the ninth inning, like
Both
twice.
of them.
Yes, both of
I
them.
thought he secured one of them. I know that he had the one hitter. Um,
I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure
yeah.
he lost both of
But
them.
either way, I mean that those are not just flukes if a guy's throwing two type of games like that. And then their bullpen, yes, those back three or back four, you could say Hoffman, Green, Garcia, Sandlin. I like those. But just nothing crazy flashy. And last year their bullpen was kind of their biggest problem. So I can't make huge projections for that either. So I do have the Blue Jays winning 79 games this year and finishing fourth place, just above the Rays.
All right, so that's gonna wrap up our AL East. As a summary, I have the Orioles first, Red Sox second, Yankees third, Rays fourth, Blue Jays fifth. Parker.
So I have the Yankees first. I have the Orioles second, Red Sox three, Blue Jays fourth, and the Rays fifth.
All right, there we go. We're gonna move on to the AL Central, but before we do that, we're gonna take just a quick break. All right, bouncing over to the AL Central. Probably one of the more interesting divisions we're going to talk about. They're all interesting, but this one, I could see an argument for four teams winning the division. There's one I'll leave out, and that's the Detroit Tigers. But the other four, I think have a really good shot. Did that went right over your head, didn't it?
No, I don't even want to say anything yet. I'm just gonna wait.
I said the White Sox aren't winning it. That's the team I don't think is going to win it. But
I
um,
get it. Just keep going.
all right, yeah. So starting it off, we have our first place team last year, the Cleveland Guardians. They finished with 92 wins last season. I have them this year finishing third at 581 and 81. Um, yeah, so I
I like
think
it. I like it a lot.
okay, so we're gonna be on the same page here. Um, I'm honestly surprised this team did win 92 games last year, but I think a lot of that was riding on the bullpen. And I think that makes sense because the bullpen is amazing and it still is really, really good. And I think it's head and shoulders above any other bullpen you want to compare it to be honest with you. You talk about the big four with Clase, Smith, Gaddis, and Tim Herron. They're all still there. They also added Paul Sewald, which is, pretty nice. Um, my big concern here is the offensive depth and the rotation. I don't really like at all. So they added Santana. That was to kind of fill the void with Josh Naylor. Luis Ortiz was in the trade with Pittsburgh for Spencer Horwitz. Paul Sewell, who I said, and then Shane Bieber's returning. Not sure at what point it should be. I maybe would guess like May or June, but we don't really know yet. They'll start ramping him up soon, though. They lost Naylor and Boyd, so it's a pretty similar team from last year. David Fry is out. He won't be playing defensively this year, which I did not know. He had a pretty big surgery this offseason on, yeah, his
Okay.
elbow surgery. So he will not be playing. He'll be DHing this whole year, which is fine. I mean, the bat is really good. But that was just something I didn't really think about. Um, so yeah, I would say the Guardians winning 92 games was a bit of a surprise last year. They kind of got off to a really good start, if I remember correctly, and kind of just stayed there, which I don't think many people were expecting. But they were really good. They were a solid team. I just where I get concerned is like it's Steven Kwan and it's Jose Ramirez, and then who, right? Like is it like is Carlos Santana gonna be fine? Like, yeah, he'll be fine. And then is it like is John Kinsey Noel maybe gonna be that really good three? I don't know because he's kind of just a platoon guy right now. And then lost Andres Jimenez, so you lose the defensive value there. Not much hitting, but it looks like Gabriel Rios is the replacement for second base right now. There is a guy they have waiting in the farm system that might take that in Juan Brito. He looks okay. Again, though, this is going to be a young guy who's probably going to be playing in the MLB for the first time. Yeah, he hasn't made his debut yet. So I'm going to count that as a net loss. He's a switch hitter, though. Looks like he could be a solid. I'm just not sure on him. And then, Brian Rocchio had a fun postseason, but really not that good either. Bo Naylor behind the dish still, not a fan. Like, just this lineup does not give me any oomph outside of the top two hitters. And that really concerns me, especially when the rotation also follows something similar. I think you could say Tanner Bybee, yeah, like that's pretty solid. 173 innings at a 3.47 last year is really good. And then you go Ben Lively, Gavin Williams, Luis Ortiz, and Tristan McKenzie. I don't know. But this is kind of where it balances out with the bullpen. You don't need these guys to be aces. You don't need them to be really good every single day because you have this stud bullpen behind it. But I think the offense is going to catch up to them this season. And is the bullpen going to be as good and as dominant as it was last year? Is Clase going to have a .6 ERA in 74 innings? I don't know. It's hard for me to just say that it's all going to be worse than it was last year, but it's also a lot harder for me to say it'll be as good as it was last year. And so I think that's why I have them falling a bit and being a bit more of a 500 team this season. So I have them finishing third.
I agree 1000%. I have them finishing fourth, but I also have them finishing with 81 wins exactly. Lineup, I said the same thing. Nothing exciting at all outside of Ramirez, who's the best third baseman without a doubt. You guys, if you saw our rankings, we both said that for third base. Outside of him and Quan, I don't really see much. Um, yeah, like Santana, like you said, he's aging. Lane Thomas, is he going to bounce back to what he was? And even what he was before is just like this above average hitter. So like after that, like Brennan, Naylor, Arias, Rocchio as their 6 through 9. I don't like that at all. Their rotation it's got some upside. Bybee, I think Bybee's a good two. As an ace, I'm not 100%, but I do think he's gonna have a solid season this next year. I do like him. Lively last year was kind of out of nowhere. Before that, his ERA was like hovering in like the fives his whole career. So I'm not sure on him at all, especially as the two starter. Gavin Williams, honestly, I think I'm higher on him than most people are. I know last year he wasn't great. I think he's going to be really good this year. Um, and then Ortiz projected to have a 4.31 next year. That's kind of doubting him a little too much because last
So,
year he was good.
I mean, yeah, but he was coming out of the bullpen a lot last year, and then they were like, okay, he's pretty good. And then he kind of became that Pirates fifth starter. I don't even know if he's going to pitch 142 innings this year,
Yeah.
but I think a 4.3 actually sounds pretty okay to me. I don't think he's gonna be as, kind of
Yeah.
fill in like it as a four guy. I really don't think that's gonna be
Yeah.
great.
There's going to be a lot more pressure on him this year to be like a full-time rotation arm. And
Yeah, like more expectation. Yeah.
yeah, I would definitely see him closer to the 4.31 projection than last year. So, Mackenzie, I don't know what happened to him. I thought he was so good. I remember going to a Tigers game, I think it was like 3 years ago when he was first kind of um, getting started with the MLB, and he threw a perfect game into the eighth inning. And that was when Cabrera was on his 500 home run watch. So
Mm,
I was kind of devastated that game, and I'm like, oh, this guy, Tristan McKenzie, like he is so good. And he had a great season that year, but I don't know. You don't know what to expect out of him this next year. I don't think he's going to be great. Um, so yeah, just pretty much what I'm saying is lineup and rotation. I'm not very high on. 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10, bullpen 10 out of 10. I think it's going to be the best bullpen this year. But like the thing is, and you were pointing to this the whole time. Last year they definitely overperformed their expectations. Um, and the bullpen is a big reason why. However, there's no way this bullpen can replicate what they did last year. I still think they're gonna be the best, but there's no way that they can have the dominance they had last year. I just don't see a world where that happens.
yep.
Um, but their back three of Clase, Cade Smith, and Gaddis is like otherworldly. Like they're gonna be so good this year. And I am excited to see how close they are to last year, and if they do replicate it, then they definitely could return to the peak that they did last year. But um, I don't think that can cover up the other areas of the game. Like out of the three big things we're talking about, between those three aspects of a team, I think bullpen is the least valuable. I'm not saying it's not valuable at all because it's still huge. Um, but like I'd rather a rotation be really good than a bullpen. So. Yeah, we're pretty low on this team,
Yep.
and we might be disrespecting them compared to what they did last year, but I think this year will kind of do the talking in
I
the
think
long.
it's funny too because I think we're gonna agree a lot on this team, but the next team I think we're gonna disagree quite a bit. So I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on the Tigers.
You think we're gonna agree on this team?
Disagree. Sorry.
Okay, good. Not good, actually. We'll see. I have them finishing first, but I only have them having 88 wins. Um, Kind of like the same ideology as the AL East. I think they're going to kind of beat up on each other. These top four teams are very, very close. And it's honestly, I would not be surprised if any of these top four did win the division. Um, I know you're going to say their lineup's not good. That's going to be your biggest pointing of your finger would be their lineup. And it's really not. I have their lineup as 5 out of 10. It lacks a lot of depth. It has a lot of question marks near the end. But I don't know. I mean, between Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, Parker Meadows in the outfield, I know Kerry's gonna probably DH a lot, but like those are that's a really, really solid outfield, like one of the best outfields I think in the American League. Picking up labor was good, although I've kind of said it a lot. I'm still confused by that whole thing. Porks looked good in spring training, but I'm not falling for that again this year. Same with Baez. I'm not gonna fall for the trick. Maeda, he did just have a big bad the blow up start that we're kind of used to seeing in spring training. Um, I think Cole Keith is gonna take a big jump, and then we're just relying a lot on Trey Sweeney and Jace Young on the left side of the infield, which I am not comfortable with at all. Behind the dish, I'm fine with Jake Rogers. I know hitting wise, he's not the best, but he's still going to put up a 3 WAR because his defense is just like top two or top three, at least in the American League. So
Yeah.
I understand the question marks there, and you can kind of go into that a little bit more based off like your big concerns. Um, but looking at the rotation, I like the rotation a lot. I have it at 8 out of 10, and it's a big reason is Eric Skubal is we both said it, he's the best pitcher in the MLB, we think, going into this next season. Getting Jack Flaherty is huge. He was amazing with the Tigers last year, and even compared to when he was with the Dodgers, like the Tigers, that ballpark he loved. Um, and he just pitched very good. His strikeout to walk ratio was like the best in the American League last year when he was with the Tigers. And then Reese Olson, I like him a lot as a 3 starter. And then you get to the 4 and 5, which gets a little bit shaky, but I still think the top three kind of make up for it. Casey Mize the four is not bad. Like if he puts up like a four or like a 4.1 ERA, I think you're fine with that as a four starter. And then the fifth starter is kind of up in the air between Penta, which I think they would just do that because they're paying him, which
It'll be
I
Job.
don't.
It'll be Job.
Yeah, I don't know. Job, I've been seeing a lot of things saying Job might not even start on the opening day roster
Really?
because, well, to my understanding, if they hold him for a month without pulling him up, and then they pull him up, like let's say in May or whenever, you get an extra year of control.
Yeah.
Unless he wins the Rookie of the Year, and then you get the year control no matter what. So
But
I
but
think they might take that route.
but he'll be up most of the season, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
So
Like, so
yeah, I guess I'll just say Job at 5, which
I see Kenta at 5, and I just kind of erase it and think Jackson Job
okay,
because
yeah.
that's probably
Which
what,
that's more than fair. I
which is
think you
better. It's better.
so that does make this sound better. So ignore I said Kenta Maeda at all. Um so yeah, Jackson Job, he's a rookie. I'm not gonna say like I expect him to have like a 3.1 ERA and like win the rookie of the year, but I do think he's gonna be a good pitcher and a very good five starter or four starter wherever they want him in that rotation. So yeah, I'm super high in the rotation and I'm also super high in the bullpen, which last year the bullpen was let's see, I think it was second or third best ERA in the American League.
Fifth,
Um Fifth,
but
was it?
yeah, still top five.
Okay, yeah. In the American League or MLB?
MLB, MLB. So
Okay.
maybe American League it was second or
Yes. So the bullpen was very good last year. And that was with a ton of innings. They pitched the most innings last year out of any team just because of that pitching chaos. Um, I like it a lot. They don't have that one like crazy good closer, which that's probably my only worry with this bullpen. Like they don't have that Devin Williams or that Josh Hader, um, or that we'll get into the other guys, Duran and then Clase we've talked about. Um, But like I love Jason Foley. Tyler Holton is super underrated. I think he's gonna have another great year. He had like a 2.1 ERA each of the past two seasons, and nobody talks about it at all. Canley was a good pickup. Will Vest is good. And then you got guys that you pull up from the minors who have like a 5 ERA in the minors, and then somehow in the MLB they're like producing at like a high rate between like Brant Herter and Brennan Hanafy. I'm super excited about the pitching staff. And I don't think the lineup is bad enough to kind of dock them that much to drop them to what I think you're gonna put them at 3. Um, so yeah, that's my reasoning. 88 wins, Tigers. We'll see if I eat my words.
Um, I have them finishing fourth with 78 wins. So I'm kind of on the other end of the spectrum. And before I say what I'm gonna say, there's 100% a universe where your prediction is right and they do win the division. I think that is well within reach. I'm just more on the less optimistic side. Yes, the lineup, that's probably my main concern here. Um, it's kind of like I don't want to say lacking the star power argument, but it kind of is. Like you'd probably say like what Riley Green's the best hitter here, and then maybe followed by Carey, I guess, and then Glaber is maybe the third. And maybe you could sub that out for a Parker Meadows, if you wanted to. I don't know. I don't see a lot here that gets me excited. I keep talking about the left side infield. I remember saying before the offseason, if they don't fix shortstop and third base, I would not really be happy with that, and they didn't. Trey Sweeney and Jace Young are not guys I want on shortstop and third heading into the season. And Jake Rogers, I understand the defense, but a 71 WRC plus and a 607 OPS is well below average for offense. That
Yeah.
I don't know. It kind of cancels out the defense for me, to be honest. And he kind of is just. I know the WAR. It's like two WAR and like projecting to be a 3-win player, but I think we both agree that WAR does favor defense quite a bit. Um, Looking at the bench too, I just like Andy Ibanez. I know he's a platoon guy, but the numbers don't like him. Zach McKinstry, I don't like either. Dylan Dingler as your backup catcher is like worse than Jake Rogers in all facets. Like I don't know. I just don't see how this lineup. does anything impressive in my books. Maybe Torkelson bounces back and Colt Keith, produces a pretty good season offensively, which I think he might, but there's just not much that gets me excited here. I will say the rotation is fantastic. Scooble, Flaherty, and Job, I think, will form one of the best 1 through 3s across the MLB and maybe the best in the American League. I think it's easy to forget Flaherty was not good after before last season. He had a couple bad stretches, and he kind of found something last year in Detroit. And there's a pretty good chance he replicates that. But I'm saying there's a chance that might not be the case. I think Joe will be good. I'm excited to watch him. And then with your 4 and your 5, Reese as your 4 and Mize as your 5, I think is actually pretty solid. Takes the pressure off of them, and I think they can show that they're pretty good, both of them respectively. The bullpen. I don't want to make this case for like all the bullpens, like the good ones last year, but it is so volatile that are we expecting the Tigers to have as good of a bullpen as they did last year? I don't know. It's hard to say. These numbers are really, really impressive from a lot of different guys, and just knowing like relief pitchers and how different it can change from year to year, I'm not just gonna pencil it in as a really good bullpen right now, but it could be the case. I don't know. That makes me nervous. Parker Meadows also he had an injury. I don't know if you read about this, but like I think it's in his non-throwing hand. He like his, can't feel something in one of his fingers. I think is what it was, or something in his hand. But I think he's gonna start the season on the IL. At least that's what it said. And then it was also Matt Vierling not going to be on the opening day roster as well. So just two kind of minor injuries there. My biggest argument here is I remember I was talking to you in like July about the Tigers, and they were right around 500. And you were actually not optimistic at all, which was respectable because the Tigers don't really haven't done much recently
Yeah.
that made you believe that they were gonna, get somebody or make the push. And I was like, well, you never know. I mean, they're still in it. It's still a lot of season left to go, and of course, we all know they ended up getting in. And I know me and you have seen this graphic a lot. The 0.2% chance to make the playoffs at that one date, in August or whatever it was, and then they end up getting in. So the improbable run that they went on, I like it was improbable, and everything just kind of clicked at the right moment, and I just don't see that happening again over 162 games. I think they haven't done enough for me to be convinced that that wasn't just a fluke rip shot, like found your way in the playoffs and got it done. I don't see that happening again, and I see them kind of falling back or regressing to the mean of what this team or where this team actually stands. And I think you can see that kind of throughout their lineup. So that's my argument for them finishing fourth.
Yeah, with last year, I agree with that. I don't think that like what happened last year is like a once every like 20 years type of thing. Like I don't see the pitching chaos working. But we also like we were running off Tarek Skubal and then Kyler Montero is at two, and then a bunch of bullpen guys because we lost Flaherty, and then Olson and Mize were injured, so our rotation was completely decimated. So I don't think we're gonna see anything of that nature this year. And even if we did, I don't think the Tigers would even win 70 games if they did that the whole year. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think I didn't even mention Vierling, like you said, with the injury. I like he's been above average hitter each of the last 2 years, which I know what does above average mean. Um,
Good. He's good.
but like I'm fine with that. Parker Meadows, it was a bicep like nerve that was messing with his kind of feel. But apparently like he should be good within the first week or second week of the season starting. So like he's not gonna miss his start timeline by that much. So we'll see. I like the platoon matchups. I'll just kind of close with this. Like did you see Torkelson's getting reps in right field?
Is he really?
Yeah. I don't know what that'll do, but like if you can just open up like different types of options like that and like
Yeah.
I know you said Andy Banez, like you're not a big fan of him. I think he's gonna be very good if they keep him to his strength because each of the last 2 years, his OPS against lefties was like between 800 and 900, with like a decent sample size. So as long as they just keep him away from righties, as that bench rule, I think that'll be fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see. So now
I think
You,
it's me on the Royals.
okay, you, sorry.
No, you're good. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the Tigers. This should be a fun team to follow. Um, so the Royals, I have winning this division this season, with 88 wins. And I guess the only argument I really want to make, um, and I guess you can kind of see if you can. So like when I think of like cores of teams, I think the Royals from the hitters, the rotation, the bullpen. The bullpen, I could probably you could make the argument no because of Cleveland, but I think for the hitters and the rotation, they have the best core guys out of anybody in this division. So in this division, or you could even probably say, I would say keep it in this division because the AL probably gets a little weird. But is there a better group of four hitters than Bobby Witt Jr., Jonathan India, Vinny Pasquantino, and Salvador Perez?
I 100%. I think the Twins would have it, which I can get into that. I don't think the Royals lineup is good at all. I'm the lowest on them other than the White Sox.
Okay. Uh,
Um, yeah, go ahead. Well, you.
so yeah, I see. I think the Royals are. I think that is the best four, hitting wise, out of anybody in this division. The Twins, yes, I think they have the argument, but I would also say the Royals players actually play baseball
Yeah.
and see 100 games on the field.
Yeah.
And then I would go to the rotation. Is there a better three than Reagans, Lugo, and Michael Wacha? I would be hard pressed to say.
I
Um,
can probably agree with that. Yeah.
yeah. And then even in the bullpen, I think they're runner up to Cleveland. But Urseg, Estevez, and then either Schreiber or Hunter Harvey, I think you'd also be hard to find three guys better than that. And that kind of 7, 8, 9, I think that's really, really good. Um, yes, I 100% I hear the concerns with the lineup. It is hard to look at this and say like, oh, this team's gonna win the division. But the rotation is really my saving grace here. Seeing Cole Reagan, Seth Lugo, and Walker as the front three, and then Michael Lorenzen and Chris Bubich as your 4, 5. I don't know that to me is that's really really good, and I'm not gonna try and justify like, oh, Kyle Isbell will have a pretty good season, or like Hunter Renfroe won't be a negative win player, like he won't be below like replacement last year. Like I'm not gonna try and make that argument, but 1 through 5, because I think Michael Massey is pretty good too. I would say is going to be the leading charge with the rotation that brings them into winning this division. And I remember the other day when Witt got hit in the forearm, and you're like, if Bobby Witt Jr. didn't play the season, would that change your prediction? I'd be like, oh yeah, 100%. Like
Yeah.
if Bobby Witt Jr. I'm projecting Bobby Witt Jr. to have a better or like this as good of a season last year, maybe even better. If Bobby Witt Jr. isn't a part of this team is probably finishing fourth easily. Um, I'm really really like banking on that on Bobby Witt Jr.'s production here. Um, I think the Jonathan India move is pretty underrated, and I think he's going to be. I think the value you're going to see with him being in this lineup is pretty massive, in my opinion. I think he's a really good hitter and a really good leadoff guy. His on base last year was 357, and then having Bobby Witt Jr. hitting second, that's pretty. At least that's how they're projecting it. But I think that could be a really good tandem there. Um, yeah, man. The team gets me excited, and I think this is their year to kind of make a bigger jump. And it's only 2 more wins than they had last season. And that was before most of last season they didn't have Hunter Harvey or Lucas Hrseg, and they also added Estevez. So I think the bullpen is probably better than it was. So I'm high on them. I think this is the year they overtake, I guess, the Guardians, but also the Twins because I have
Mhm.
them finishing above the Twins. So yeah, first place for the Royals.
Yeah, I 100% agree with the rotation. I love it. I think it matches up well with the Tigers, and I think it actually has the upper hand on the Tigers. Like you said, between that Reagan's, Lugo, Waka, 1 through 3, I think that's amazing. And it kind of makes like with Bubic, who's expected to take a big step forward, which I do expect him to be. like okay, at least for a 4 or 5 starter. And then Lorenzen's just kind of proven that he can be an innings eater and like still be productive at times. So like you kind of cover up that Brady Singer loss pretty easily. Like it doesn't really seem to be
Yeah.
a worry to me. Um, Bullpen, I don't know. Bullpen, I'm not like as high on as you. I said like 6 out of 10. Rotation, I gave a 9 out of 10, but 6 out of 10 for bullpen. I love the pickups between Ursig. I know they traded for him. They didn't just get him, but they just got Estevez and then just getting Hunter Harvey. Was that the trade deadline last year, right?
Yeah, that was with Washington.
Okay. I do like those three a lot. After that, I'm not 100%. Schreiber was like up and down last year quite a bit. But I can still see him being productive. And then they're like bottom four. I do not like a lot at all. Stratton, Long, and Hernandez were not good last year, and I'm not expecting much out of them. Um, Hitting, this might be like our biggest discrepancy
Yeah.
between us. Their lineup is so bad. Bobby Witt is amazing. I'm gonna say it now. We'll get into our award predictions, but I'll just say I think he's gonna win MVP this year.
And that's what I have too.
Good. I think that's a very safe pick. But after that, like, dude, I don't know. Pascantino, like, he's injured quite a bit. I think he'll be that number two guy in terms of offensive production. Um, Salvi, he's been proving it. So, like, how much can we doubt him until he actually proves that he can't hit? Which, like, he's had off seasons or bad seasons in the past.
Hmm.
But like, he's still productive. So I agree with that. Outside of those top three, dude, Jonathan India, you're really high on him. He had a great rookie
Played.
year in 2021, but between the last 3 seasons, he was below average hitter. Like you look at the OPS pluses, the production looks good because he played at a park that favors hitters more than almost any other park besides Coors.
Kansas City
But
does
like
as
last,
well.
what?
Kansas City is a really good park for hitters also.
Not nearly. Cincinnati's like the park for
No,
hitters
I
though.
think it's like it's literally like 2 and 3. I'll check. I'll check.
I know home run wise,
But
the
you're saying
hitting's hurt with
like
Kansas.
hitting wise in general?
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyways, 105 OPS plus last year, 98, and then 94 the 2 years before that. Like, yes, it's you're getting an average bat, but like, how excited can you be? Like, is he like he's your leadoff guy? Like, how excited can you be about that? I don't know.
Well,
And
so when he walks like at a 12% clip, that's what gets me excited for being a leadoff guy.
okay, so
It's impressive. He's
yeah,
got, I mean, it's a very, it's like I think it's 97th percentile walk rate for India.
you're looking at the on base mostly. You like that?
Yeah, and I think there's upside with the bat still, despite the lack of production we've seen recently.
Okay. Well, I can see that. I can see him being like at best like a 110 OPS plus guy. But like how much is that gonna help you when your bottom five is so bad? Like I don't know, dude. I don't like this. Massey, I think he's again, I think he's average, but with the outfield of Renfro, Melendez, and Isbell,
It is bad. It is.
that might be the worst outfield. That might be worse than like Chicago's outfield. Your guys' outfield is not bad at all. I would take that 10 days out of 10 days over this outfield that the Royals are putting out there. So
Are we 2 years too late on the MJ Melendez breakout?
I think we're a little too late. We'll see. They're projecting him to
Holding
be
on. Holding on for
okay,
faith.
but I don't know. I don't like it at all. I don't think it's
Then
good.
he's been a negative win player 2 full seasons. That's brutal.
That's insane. Um, so yeah, I have them with 82 wins, and finishing third in the division.
So I will say the park factor, and I'm pretty sure this incorporates everything, not just home runs. The Reds is 3, the Royals is 4. So it's 105, 104. So
Yeah.
it's I think it'll be pretty similar. Let me pull up India's Savan really quick too. So yeah, his walk rate last year was 12.6%. That's 97th percentile. Chase percentage 18.4 is 98th as well. XwOBA and X batting average are both above 80th percentile. I know his OPS does not look great, and again, outside of his rookie year, it hasn't really been. good, but looking at what the Royals had before India coming over, I think this is a huge upgrade, and we'll see the difference on the field this year. So,
Mhm.
uh,
Okay.
you're up for the Twins.
You can get us started. My computer is messing around again, so.
Okay, I will. I'll keep it light because I know you're pretty high on the Twins, so I want to let you kind of give us your opinion on them. But so yeah, the Minnesota Twins. I'm sure you guys have seen kind of the narrative about the Twins with injuries and everything, and but also how amazing this lineup can be if they decide to stay healthy. Up and down, Matt Wallner in right field, Correa at short, Buxton at center, Larnick in left, Royce Lewis at third, Jeffers behind the dish, really Casio kind of utility man DH. They have Ty France at first. I think it's going to be Jose Miranda. I don't really know. And then the once like very high prospect Brooks Lee playing in at second here. And then even moving over to the rotation, you have Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, Simeon Woods Richardson, and then Chris Paddock is who the projected ones are right now. And then the bullpen is also pretty solid with Yohan Duran, Griffin Jacks as the 1-2 kind of here in the back, and a couple other nice pieces here. But of course, again, the big question with the Twins is the health. Buxton's been kind of the center of this argument. I think he hasn't played over 110 games, and I don't know if ever, to be honest with you. Correa is another guy, not as injury concerned with him, but last year I know he did miss some time. Royce Lewis, it seems like every time he touches the field, he gets off of it right away. Um, it's tough to say. It's hard to project this team because it really can be all over the place. This could be the best team in the AL Central pretty easily, to be honest, or injuries could play them again. They could kind of be that 500, slightly above 500 team that we're kind of used to seeing. Yeah, I have them finishing second. I would say that really quick. I had them at 83 wins. I'm just not, I'm not gonna buy into them being healthy. I think if this whole team stays healthy, I can totally see a scenario where they do win the division and pretty easily at that, to be honest
Yeah.
with you, because up, down, uh, in the lineup, it probably is the strongest of the AL Central. But again, that's assuming these guys stay on the field, which to me is just hard to say that they are going to be because they haven't shown me any reason to believe that they will be. So,
Yeah. I'll also go a little not quicker, but we are taking a long time on these teams. So we apologize if we're kind of dragging these on. But with the Twins, I don't know. I think it's a little too pessimistic to bank on injuries, which it's so hard not to when I know it
yeah, I know.
happens
Right.
so
I'm
much.
not, you can't like, but yes, I 100% agree. But like, I'm not banking on this being a new thing. I'm banking on what they've shown me the past three
Yeah.
seasons of,
Which is
yeah,
totally fair. I had them finishing second with 87 wins, and I agree with you. The reason why they're second is because of the injuries. If they were healthy this year, or like kind of
ever.
as healthy as other teams, they're winning 93 to 95 games and they're winning this division easily. I 100% agree. I think this lineup is the best in the AL Central easily. And I think when healthy, it's top five lineup in the MLB potentially. I don't know. I like it a lot. Correa and Buxton, when healthy, it's the same question every single time.
Yep.
When healthy, they're amazing. Matt Wallner, like he's shown to be so good. Like he'll put up 900 OPSs, but again, he's what are you gonna get like 80 games out of him because he just doesn't play because he's hurt? It's so tough, dude. I give this lineup an 8 out of 10 to like a 9 out of 10. Rotation, not bad at all. Maybe like a 6 or 7 out of 10. Um, I'm not a huge fan of Lopez as the one. Will he bounce back? Yes, but I don't think he's going to return to the old Lopez that we saw before, especially like in his Marlin days. Um, I like their two and three a lot. I'm a huge Joe Ryan and Bailey Ober fan. I feel like Bailey Ober's constantly just shoving against the Tigers when I watch him. So I think he's gonna put up a good season. And then they're 4 and 5. Simeon Woods Richardson, I think last year, which although he wasn't even like that good, I think we're still gonna see some regression out of him. And then Chris Paddock, I mean, I you don't even know what to expect out of him. I'm expecting like a 4 or 5 year race. So
Hmm.
rotation top three, I like a lot. After that, I don't see much depth. And then this bullpen is very, very, very good. Um, I said 8 out of 10. This is kind of just saying what you said, but like that eighth and ninth inning between Joan Duran and Griffin Jax is so good. I think Griffin Jax is underrated. I'm also a big Brock Stewart guy, and then I also like the pickup of Danny Colomé as a lefty because they definitely needed some lefties in that bullpen because it's just him and Cody Funderburk right now.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I still overall like that bullpen a lot. So yeah, 87 wins. If they stay healthy, like we've been saying, they're going to win 93 games and they're going to win the division. But until
Yep.
they prove that, I'm still kind of high on them, but until they prove that, I think it's hard to put them as the division winner, at least. So
Yeah, so I guess we're honestly not that too far away on them. I forgot you had the Tigers winning it, so I thought you had them winning it at first. But I think you're maybe a little bit more on the optimistic side. I'm more on the pessimistic, but either way, it's like a four-win difference,
yeah.
so it's not too far apart. So we're gonna wrap up the AL Central here really quick. The White Sox, I had them at 64 wins, finishing fifth. I don't have much to say. They signed a lot of like a pretty good amount of free agents this offseason. None of the big names you're gonna like normally see just because of the position they're in. Um, I'm me as a White Sox fan, I'm excited for this season. I think we're gonna watch Colson Montgomery play. I think Hagen Smith we're gonna watch. I think we're gonna watch Noah Schultz. I think we're gonna watch Edgar Caro, Kyle Teal. Like I'm excited to watch all these young guys get up and have a chance to play. On top of maybe Luis Robert Jr. returning to normal. We'll see what Mike Talkman can do. I assume most of the free agents we get are just going to be trade deadline guys if we can find a suitor for them, which, is fine. I'm not really going to be upset by that. Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say with this team. Let the young guys get up and play, and we'll see how that turns out. Montgomery might break camp and he'll be on the opening day roster, which would be pretty cool. Yeah, I'm optimistic about this season. I think it'll be fun to watch and a lot more fun than last year, hopefully. I don't have much else to say on them though.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same boat as you. I know you're a White Sox fan, so I guess you're more excited about these prospects, but I am very intrigued to see like what Kyle Teal, like Brady Montgomery can bring. And then like Schultz when he comes up, and then I think Cannon and Thorpe could turn out to be like decent arms. I don't know if that's going to be this year or not. Um, so yeah, just looking forward to the season. I said 62 wins. I've been seeing like what's their projections? Because
I think I
they're
want to say
projecting very low, like very, very low win totals, and I don't think that they get close to what they did last year.
yeah. I've seen betting lines at like 53 and a half, I think
Yeah.
is usually what it's kind of around, like mid to low 50s.
I don't see a world where they lose less than 55 games. And I remember last year you were kind of talking about this, but like everything that could possibly go wrong seemed to go wrong. And I
Yeah.
just don't see that happening this year. Um, and yeah, I really do hope that a lot of these guys can like take a step forward and that like Robert can take a big step, at least in the first half, so you guys can get a decent trade package out of him. But yeah, just we'll just see what happens, I guess, with these
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. I do also want to say one thing with the Royals. So do you think, hmm, I think there's a universe Jack Caglione gets brought up this season.
Mhm.
If he doesn't strike out enough, or if he doesn't strike out that much in the minors, he might be up by like um, July or August, which would be, I think he'd be better than Hunter Renfroe right now in right field. So that'll be my one
Yeah.
takeaway. Um, yeah, so that's gonna do it for the AL Central. I had Royals, Twins, Guardians, Tigers, White Sox, and then Parker.
Real quick, I think they could put a statue in right field instead of Renfroe. I think you get more
Be
production.
better. I think it'd be
Well, I
better.
mean, they wouldn't post a negative WAR at that
Yeah,
point.
it'd be zero.
Yeah, so I said Tigers one, Twins two, Kansas City three, Guardians four, and then White Sox fifth.
All right, we're gonna move on to the ALS and wrap up the American League, but before that, we're gonna take one more quick break.
Okay, now moving on to the AL West. But before I do that, I do want to mention Joey Gallo. Did you see he got released this morning
You did?
on the White Sox?
Yeah,
Did he
not
got?
so.
Oh, he's not excited. He is
Well,
not.
I didn't like. What's the difference Joey Gallo's gonna make? Like, I
I just
mean,
want to say immediately after he got released, he announced he's pitching now.
Yeah, so that tells you where he was at. Good
So
move by Chris Getz. Good move.
yeah, we're gonna have I don't know what the minor league teams for the White Sox, but we're gonna have Joey Gallo carving up hitters in the minors.
Don't. It's gonna be like David Fletcher
Oh,
all over again.
yeah.
You suck too much at hitting, so try pitching now. Stupid.
Anyway, so AL West. We're gonna start off with the Astros. I have them finishing first in the division with 93 wins. I think their lineup is super solid. I gave it 8 out of 10. I think it's top five in the American League. While their top four is very good, and this also could be the best top four, like comparable to the Red Sox, if not better.
Mhm.
Between Altuve, Paredes, Yordan Alvarez, and Christian Walker, I love that top four a lot. And then like even their depth, I like a lot too. Um, First getting into the bottom of their lineup, Diaz, Pena, Chad McCormick, Mauricio Dubon, Jake Myers. Like I'll take those guys for lineup depth. You're smiling. I don't know what you're
All
smiling
right.
at.
I meet every time I think of Jeremy Pena, I know I just
Oh, okay.
Parker is a known Jeremy Pena hater, and it's just funny to me that you're clumping him in like the good depth lineup. It's a good moment for you. It's a lot of
Well,
growth.
he's
So
still okay.
I just want
He's
to
still an
compliment.
average hitter. I'm not gonna say he's not an average hitter. I'll take that with good defense.
What was your deal with him? Like he got overhyped after a postseason series, and just not. I think that it was something like that, and
Yeah. Well,
overrated
what do you
maybe.
want? Did you want me to have him like? What were we talking about? Like,
I
what
don't
was it?
remember what we were talking about. Something got brought up though, and for some reason you had some kind of beef with Jeremy Pena, and it was just out of nowhere. So I just,
He's still a
yeah,
good
no,
like
he's
bottom
great.
line of that
Give
piece. So it's maturity. It's
him his
over
flowers. Give him his
10.
flowers.
Okay. So yeah, I love this lineup. Caratini is a backup catcher, like okay, whatever. Singleton, like he's just kind of a big guy that's just gonna come off the bench to fill in for like a first baseman or a DH spot. So I don't know what you're gonna expect out of those guys, but I do love the lineup. I like the rotation a lot too. I said the rotation 7 out of 10, maybe even better. I think their ceiling is super high. I'm expecting a lot out of Hunter Brown and Spencer Arrighetti. Hunter Brown last year, you wanna pull up his stats while I talk?
Hmm.
Um, I like he started the year out so bad, and I kept like checking in, and he was like sitting at like a 5 to 6 ERA in his first like 8 starts or something, and then he went on like a crazy stretch and ultimately had a great season. Um, and then like Framber Valdez, so underrated. I don't know where I think I had him seventh for my starting pitching rankings. Like every year he's gonna be so good. He's gonna throw a lot of innings. Ronel Blanco, I don't know what to expect from him, but if he even shows any signs of being what he was last year, then I think that's very solid.
Yep.
And then Hayden Wesneski, I know a lot of people are high on him, especially as a 5 starter. I'm totally fine with that. And then bullpen, I like their bullpen a lot. I really don't think there's many holes in this Astros team. I know we were talking about like the best eighth and ninth inning guys. I think Brian Abreu and or not Jose, I think Josh Hader, those two are super solid. Um, and then like they even have more than that between like Brian King, Taylor Scott, just guys that you don't know too much about, but like they're still gonna go out there and produce. So, super high on this Astros team. I've been waiting for so long for this Astros team to fall off, and they just have not really shown any signs of doing so. So until then, I'm going to be high on them. So 93 wins, Houston Astros.
Yeah, so I've been finishing first also with 89 wins. So not as high. I think they're gonna miss Kyle Tucker probably a little bit more than like I don't know. I don't see him I guess they had 88 wins last year, so I'm projecting them to be better, but um I'm 100% on the same page with you. So for Hunter Brown, by the way, so April, March, 23 innings at a 9.78, and then
Yeah.
June was kind of his first like whoa. He had 31 innings at a 1.16.
Mm,
August also 31 innings at a 1.45. His first half he had a 4.39 ERA. Second half was a 2.26. So
yeah.
you're 100% right there with Hunter Brown. Um, the Astros really filled the Tucker whole like super well.
Yeah.
And Bregman. Paredes, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Paredes is better than Bregman was last year or even this upcoming year. I don't think that's crazy to say that Paredes has maybe not defensively, sure, but Bregman's not even playing third anymore, so hard to compare. But offensively, I think Paredes could be due for a better season than Bregman, 100%. Um, Hayden Wesniewski also could be starter long relief guy. We'll see how they kind of use him, but that's just another nice throw in for that deal. Um, and yeah, I'm sure you've seen all the Cam Smith hype.
Mhm.
And I think we talked about it on the podcast. The one graphic that I think I sent it to you.
Yeah.
Oh
Two for
my
two
God.
with two home runs or
And Kyle Tucker was like 0 for 2.
yeah.
Um, anyway, Cam Smith has looked great in spring training, and I think Altuve said he wants him to be on the team this season, and management has also said there's a chance he does make the team. That could be really exciting. Cam Smith was drafted last year, and the hit tools are there. A lot of guys are really, really high on him, and that would just be awesome to see. Um, I was looking at the injuries too. Luis Garcia, Christian Javier, and Lance McCullers all on the injured list sucks like a lot. And it's just even more impressive for how impressive the rotation is without those guys.
Yeah.
I think Luis Garcia Jr. will be back this season. Javier, probably not. And Lance McCullers, I don't really know. I think he just started throwing the ball again. He's had a pretty bad history just with injuries, and I think this will be his second kind of full season out probably. And then Javier, of course, had Tommy John. I'm agreeing with you on everything though you said. Until the Astros show me they're not going to be a top team, I will continue to believe in them. They've developed just a winning culture there, and it seems like any team they throw out is going to compete and going to be a tough team to beat.
Mhm.
And the lineup still looks really good. Adding Christian Walker, I didn't even bring up him. I'm kind of feeling that Kyle Tucker void. And Jordan is still going to be a monster. And we'll see how Altuve in left field works. I mean, it's not going to be worse than Jordan playing in left. So, I mean, like, what's the difference? But yeah, so 89 wins first place. I'm full agreement with you there. So moving on next to the Mariners, I have them finishing second this year. Um, the reason for that is I think their floor is actually pretty high. Um, I think people forget they had 85 wins last year, and I'm not saying that's fantastic, but it was second place in this division, only 3 games behind the Astros. Um, George Kirby, don't really know what that situation looks like. It's shoulder inflammation. Could be
Mm.
bad, could be fine. He might
Mm.
be back. I don't know. I
I don't
yeah.
even know if I don't even know if it can be fine. I mean,
Is it do you think it's like guaranteed like Tommy John or
no,
done?
no, no. I don't, but like when you agree that fine is like 2 months out at least with shoulder, like you would
Yeah.
think,
Yeah. I mean, I'm just happy they're still thinking he can return the
yeah,
season. Like it's not awful. It sucks, but it's not terrible.
yeah.
But I guess I was looking at this team, and I know everybody, clowns on the offense, and for good reason, especially when you throw in the factor that they didn't really do, like, they didn't add anything this offseason for the bat side. And the hitting numbers, like 29th in average, 22nd in OPS last season, like bottom 10 pretty much in any category you'd want to look at. But Victor Robles batted like 323 last year in the second half out of nowhere. As a leadoff guy, if he keeps that up, that could be pretty good. I think Julio Rodriguez is going to be better than he was last year. He's still a superstar, I think, and I think he's going to show that again this year. Cal Riley, you guys know how high I am on him. I had him as my number one catcher in 2025, and I think he's going to keep that up. Randy Rosarina, I don't know if we're going to see numbers that we saw in Tampa Bay just because Seattle is a tough stadium to hit in. We all know that. And it's definitely a pitcher friendly park. But he's still a nice guy to have in here. And even like a Luke Raley isn't terrible. And then after that, I could see where you get kind of concerned. And there is good reason to be concerned. There's not much here to like on offense. But I would go to the rotation every day of the week and say, look at these 4 or 5 guys and show me 4 or 5 guys that are better than that in a sample and on a complete rotation. The Mariners, it's too good for me to not favor that. And I think another kind of sneaky signing was Donovan Solano, or like it was really their only signing, I guess. But He had a 760 OPS and 118 WRC plus last season, and he can play, I think, all over the infield. And that's just, I don't know, it's just a nice guy to have, a good hitter overall. And, going into age 38 season, we'll see if he does the same thing. I'm not going to bank on it, but even a Dylan Moore isn't a bad option here either coming off the bench. So I think pieces are in there for them to be just hopefully not as bad as they were offensively last season. And that rotation is going to carry them a pretty long way, I think. And then if you have a lead going into the ninth, having Andres Munoz as your closer, I think is also excellent. And I can't speak much to the rest of this bullpen. Colin Snyder looked pretty good last year. I don't know much about the other guys, but I'm willing to bet on a pretty good season from the Mariners here. And I actually do have them sinking into the playoffs as well at 86 wins. So that is my second place team.
I have them finishing third, just over 500 with 82 wins. This lineup, yes, on paper, I agree with you. It does it looks okay. It does not look like the atrocity that we've seen in the past. But like that's what I'm kind of looking at is like on paper, this lineup always looks okay to good, and they just never perform. Like Donovan Solano, how many times have we seen these guys come over from another team and just forget how to hit completely?
Yeah.
Um, I'm you look at the 1 through 4, Robles, like he's been so bad before this last year, so I don't know if that's gonna come back. J-Rod, like he's gonna be very, very good, but hitting, we've seen the peaks and valleys out of him a lot, and then Cal Raleigh's so good. I still have him as my number 2 catcher. I know you wanted me to put him as number 1. Um, but yeah, I like those guys are gonna be good this year, but like the rest of their lineup just not great. Randy Rosarina, I think he's gonna be good, but like you said, not that Tampa Bay Randy Rosarina that they do need because they need as much offensive production as they can get. I did say the rotation is losing Kirby. I still think it might be the best in the American League, which is crazy to say. Like
Yeah.
that's how much depth they have. Like with Kirby in the rotation, their 1 through 5 is just full of ace to number 2 starters. Like it's crazy what they're doing there. I said 9 out of 10 for that, and then bullpen I said 5 out of 10. They're kind of similar to the well the Guardians do it, but now the Guardians are becoming more well known. But like the Tampa Bay Rays type of thing, where they'll just throw guys out there and they somehow just kind of are good pitchers. And it could be attributed to like the ballpark that we've talked about, like how favorable that ballpark is, but I still don't want to discredit them. Andres Munoz, he's so good. I think he had an ERA in like the mid to low ones last year. Next year he's going to be amazing again, I think. And then kind of like you said, the rest of the guys, I'm not 100% on. Like I don't know much about them, but I can still expect them to produce like they have in the past. So really just back to the Astros, like until they prove that they can't win, I'm still gonna like kind of bank on them being good. And then with the Mariners, until they prove they can hit, I can't really put them as a playoff team. So 82 wins with the third place.
All right.
And
I think you're going to be up on the Rangers.
yes. So I'm actually this is one of the teams that I'm the most high on. I have them winning 91 games and finishing second.
Wait, would you have the
Um,
Astros winning? 93?
93 and finishing
Okay.
first.
Okay.
So Rangers 91 wins. I've talked to you about this. I this might be my favorite lineup in the American League, top to bottom. I like it so much. I think it matches up very well with the Astros lineup. I think it's better in some areas. Their top 2 guys between Semien and Seager, like they're so good every single year. I know Seager's hurt a lot, but like he'll still play 120 to 130 games and hit like 35 home runs. So just guys that you can bank on to be like good every single year. Jack Peterson, Wyatt Langford, I think he's going to take a big step forward. And I know some of the guys did have like they did take step backs last year, and I do not see them kind of staying in that same path or even taking any more of a step back.
Hmm.
Josh Young, he was hurt a lot last year. I think he's going to be really good. He's shown that he can be a good offensive hitter. And then Jake Berger, I love that pickup. I love the Higashioka pickup as a backup to Jonah Heim. Like that catching duo might be like one of the best. It seems like that's crazy saying Jonah Heim and Kyle Higashioka could be, but like they're both really good players, and I would take them on my team over Jake Rogers any
Yeah,
day. Um, and yeah, Evan Carter, I think he's going to be good this year too. So I'm super high on their offense. Having Josh Smith as your as a bench bat, as a utility guy, he had a great season last year, and he's not even projected to make this starting lineup, which is crazy. But
yeah.
that's just how good they are at this point. Um, yeah, super high on them. Rotation, it does worry me. I'm not gonna lie. I have, let's see, what did I said 7 out of 10. I think it's very interesting. I've talked about this with DeGrom. I think he's gonna be so good this year. Again, if he stays healthy, same thing we've said so much, but Nathan Eovaldi, I think he's like the picture perfect two starter. I know he's getting older, but like every year he's gonna like have an ERA in the threes and like put up a between 2 and like 3.5 WAR seasons. So I think he's gonna be good. I like the pickup of Tyler Mahle. Um, I'm kind of torn on where these other like between Mahle, Rocker, and Jack Leiter.
Lighter.
I'm kind of torn on where they're going to be in the rotation. I think they're all kind of interchangeable. But I think they're like super exciting, especially Kumar Rocker. I remember his Vandy days. He was getting so much like publicity, and then he got hurt, and then like nobody talked about him. But to see him kind of come back has been exciting. I saw you're gonna say something.
Yeah, I've heard Lighter might be coming out of the bullpen too, or that could be an option. Maybe you kind of want to slow roll him out.
Yeah,
Uh, and his stuff coming out of the bullpen, that could be really good, especially with the bullpen. And I can get into that a little bit later, but I'll let you keep going.
yeah. And then bullpen, I said 5 out of 10. I don't think it's anything special, but they picked up a lot this offseason to make their bullpen better because last year their bullpen was not good at all. Getting Chris Martin is huge. He's like seems to be good every year, even though he's going in his age 39 season.
Hmm.
I like Kobe Milner a lot as a lefty, especially. And then they also picked up, let's see, Sean Armstrong, Luke Jackson from I believe it was Atlanta. Just a lot of guys that have had some success in the past, and I can see them doing it again. Still a little shaky in my mind, but I think this lineup just is so good that it makes up for any of those problems that I bring up with the pitching. So
Yeah, I would be more on your side if either the rotation or the bullpen was solid, but because neither of those are, that's where I get concerned. I have them finishing third with 82 wins. I would say the Mariners and the Astros floor is higher than the Rangers, but the
Mhm.
ceiling for the Rangers is the highest. I would say almost out of any team in the American League or the MLB. This could be a really, really, really good team this year. And
Real quick, I think that's a very good kind of point to make because last year I think we saw the floor of the Rangers. Would you
yeah,
agree? Like
yes,
everybody seemed to take a step back. And then the year before that, we kind of saw the ceiling. And I know their team looks a lot different than it did when they won it all, but
right,
keep going.
100%. Yeah, it's a revamped bullpen. It's like six new guys in here, and they're all kind of like meh. Like I don't like none of these guys really stand out on the paper to me and say, "Oh yeah, they're going to be pretty solid." Like it's fine, and the rotation, could be good, but we don't know. DeGrom, you're hoping he stays healthy, and if he does, that's great. Behind the Eovaldi, that'd be really good. Molly could be great again if he stays healthy, and then Leiter and Rocker are kind of wild cards. They're scouted to be really good, and they could be. I'm not saying they won't. I just, you don't know. It is like a Blue Jays thing for me, and I think their lineup is better than the Blue Jays, but there's so many unknowns with this team, and I hate predicting those kind of guys and predicting them to be awesome because
Yeah.
it's hard for me to say that they are going to be. I totally understand buying into that, and I would probably there's a good chance I could be proven wrong and they win 95 games, and it was like, wow, look at this team. They are built for the like postseason. Especially if they add another guy at the deadline, if they need rotation help, that could be huge. I just, I'm not ready to buy into it yet. I don't feel comfortable enough to do that. So I have them finishing third. Do you have anything else on them?
I do not. Nope.
Right. So we'll move on. I guess the Athletics finished fourth last year, which I kind of forget about. They had 69 wins. I have them going up to 71 this year. Um, it's kind of like the same team they had out last year. A few other young guys here and there. They added Severino, added Jeffrey Springs, added Jose Leclerc. It is probably a better team. I mean, and it'll be a fun watch. And I'm sure if you're an athletics fan, by the way, I have to get used to not saying Oakland Athletics, just athletics now, at least for a while they're in Sacramento. That's just kind of a new thing I've noticed where it's not Oakland anymore, which is just kind of weird. But yeah, either way, the biggest concerns for me are obviously the rotation in the bullpen. Outside of Severino, Springs, Miller, and Leclerc, there's not much to like, in my opinion. But again, this is a very young team, a lot of young guys coming up in the farm system as well, where it'll be a fun season to watch. You just signed Butler and Ricker to big extensions. Langoliers, uh, Geloff, and even Jacob Wilson will probably be up. And there's just a lot of young pieces to like here. I mean, their service time is all really low. And it's a fun time to be an athletics fan, I feel like. It'll be an exciting season for them. I still have them finishing fifth. Um, yeah, I also do have the AL Rookie of the Year on this team, but I will say who that is later.
Who I also do have. That's crazy.
Really? Dang,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, well, athletics, I won't even bring him up then, at this point. But I agree. I think this lineup could be sneaky good. Like you said, lots of control, lots of just like fun guys. Lawrence Butler, Brent Rooker, like I think those guys are gonna be so good this year. Um, and then like even like JJ Bleday, Shea Langoliers, like Shea's gonna hit probably like 25 home runs, 35 home runs. Who knows? But like you're gonna get offensive production from a lot of these guys. I think Zach Geloff, I
Oh,
believe.
Geloff? Is it Geloff?
I've heard both. I think he could be good too. I know he took a big step back last year, but like he's shown that he can hit, and his defense and like base running skills I think are very, very good. Just overall offense is sneaky, exciting. And then, like you said, pitching, I don't like this pitching at all. I don't really need to get into it. Luis Severino as a one is not good. Um, and then like Jeffrey Springs, I kind of am interested to see what he can do. I don't know if it was just the Tampa Bay like magic that made him good in the past, but he's coming off an injury, so like what are you gonna get? But I'm excited to see what he can do. But after like JP Sears, Mitch Spence, Osvaldo Bido, like I don't know. I'm not expecting them to really do anything this year, and their lineup isn't good enough for that to not be an issue.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, with their bullpen, like even Jose Leclerc, I last year like he wasn't even like not even that good. Like I know
Yeah,
he's been good in the past.
he's
He was a
like,
4.32 last year, so like he's good, but like I'm thinking as him as more of a sixth or seventh inning guy rather than like an eighth inning guy, which that's probably what they're going to bank on this coming year.
mhm.
Uh, and then Mason Miller is like top five bullpen arm in the MLB. So I think he's going to be so good, but just pitching is very, very, very weak. I have them finishing actually tied for fourth or fifth place, 74 wins. And I can get into the other team, which is the Angels, who I also have winning 74 games. Their lineup, it's got some bright spots. It's it's so interesting. They're just trying to like recreate the 2020 White Sox lineup
Yeah.
with Moncada and then Tim Anderson.
Yep.
Will that work? I don't know if it's gonna work. As of right now, Tim Anderson is a non-roster invite, it says. So I don't know if he's gonna like, is he
Make
gonna
it.
ball out in the minors and then get pulled up and produce? I don't know. Probably not. But Taylor Ward, Luis Rengifo, and Mike Trout as your top three, like that's super solid. Is Mike Trout gonna stay healthy? I really hope so. It's so sad to see like the fall off and like he's still got like 85 WAR, which is insane because I feel like he never plays. Like, how has he accumulated that much WAR? He was healthy early on, so that helps a lot, but just it's so sad. I think he'd be sitting at like 120 WAR right now, 110 if he just played as much as a lot of these superstars do. So I hope he can play. Logan O'Hoppe, we've talked about him. We think he can be a very, very good catcher, and he's shown in the past. He just needs to kind of put it together for like a full 162. And then Joe Adele, like I know people are constantly like, oh yeah, is he good? Is he good? Like he used to be this really high prospect. Um, I don't know. Are we finally gonna see the real Joe Adele breakout? I'm not sure. I do like Travis Darno picking him up too. So just I don't know, some fun things. And then kind of the same story with their pitching as the Athletics. I don't like the rotation at all. Kikuchi, like as a one, I don't like that. Jose Soriano, I don't know if he's gonna be what he was last year, which even then, like how much are you getting out of him?
Right.
Tyler Anderson, I expect a lot of regression out of him. And then Cal Hendricks and Reed Detmers as your 4 and 5. I'm not very high on. So I will say kind of another like flamethrower, definitely a flamethrower, but Ben Joyce, I love him in the bullpen. Um, and I would say I like the pickup of Kenley Jansen, but like how much does that push the needle for this team? Like, is that really going to make much of a difference?
Yeah.
Getting a 37-year-old like Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, I don't know. It might make it more exciting, but I don't think it really adds on to the ceiling that much for this team. So 74 wins.
I read the other day like the Angels just don't have a winning culture, and I think that is like 100% like one of the best ways to put this because on paper, like I don't want to say you can make an argument for the lineup or like convince yourself of the lineup,
Yeah.
but there is pieces to like on top with Logan O'Hoppe, Neto, Trout, Ward, and Heath. Like those are all really good players, I think. But it just the way this team is run and everything they do and the decisions they make, it just doesn't make any sense. And I think that has an effect on how the players play the games. Like it just seems every year they're trying to scrape by and scrape by and scrape by and like just hope that they can squeak into the playoffs. But like in reality, like the team just isn't good enough. And like eventually, like I don't know, like you have to blow this up at some point, or they'll just keep living in this mediocrity forever if that's just how they want to keep running the team. I have them finishing fourth at 73 wins. I don't have really much to say on top of what you said. Neto did have shoulder surgery back in November. He'll probably not be there for opening day, which just kind of sucks for like I don't know baseball fans because Neto's a pretty fun guy to watch. Um, yeah, it just there's not, there's literally I don't really have much. I think the best way to put it is there's not a winning culture here, and I don't really have the expectation that they're going to be competing for anything this year, even if Trout stays healthy. I don't feel like that's enough. Maybe they'll sneak up to 80 wins and have a little bit of a close race at the end, but that's like best case scenario I see for them. So that's all I have on them. And then for the AL West, I've got the Astros, Mariners, Rangers, Angels, and Athletics.
I've got the Astros, Rangers, Mariners, Angels, and Athletics.
All right, and now to wrap up our episode, give me your award winners.
MVP Bobby Witt Jr., AL Rookie of the Year. I have Jacob Wilson. His minor league stats are insane. Real quick. Last year, he went from rookie ball to double A to triple A, so he just flew through it. 1.5 OPS in, I guess, only 20 at bats. In rookie ball, they figured out that probably should not be there. And then 100 at bats with a 1.178 OPS in double A, and then 120 at bats with a 1.06 OPS in triple A. So I'm expecting him to be very good this year. And yes, Rookie of the Year. And then Cy Young, I have Framber Valdez. I think he's finally going to get the respect that he deserves.
So we almost had an identical three because I was originally on Framber, but then I jumped.
Okay.
I do have Bobby Witt as my AL MVP, and I do have Jacob Wilson as Rookie of the Year. I think Job is another very likely candidate, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wins it. In fact, I feel like I might regret not picking him here, to be honest with you. Um, should I switch it? I'm gonna switch it. I'm gonna switch it
Okay.
just to be different. I'm gonna say Jackson Jobe, AL Rookie of the Year.
I like it.
I think his stuff is solid enough to make that jump. And then my Cy Young, I have back to back Tariq Skubal winning it again.
Really?
Yes,
Okay. We got
I
Tigers fan in the pod. 78 wins. 78 wins, but they're gonna get every award.
Yeah, I guess if they have the Cy Young and Rookie of the Year, maybe it won't be
Yeah.
70.
Well,
Um,
I can see the damage control with my feelings. You're trying to
yeah,
cover.
make up for the yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's all. Yeah, I don't know. There's not many other guys that really knock my socks off, unlike
Yeah.
Skubal in the AL. Crochet, I could see the argument, maybe, and that's a big maybe. But I don't know. I think Skubal's still really solid, and guys have gone back to back before, so it's not unlikely. And I think it's in the cards for it to happen again.